Welcome to the Lita Citroen Podcast, your space to grow your influence and elevate your personal brand. In each episode, you'll hear inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical strategies to help you stand out, lift up others, and leave your mark on your team, your community, or the world. If you're ready to make your voice heard, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Lita Citroen podcast. I'm so excited for our conversation today because I'm going to push you a little bit outside your comfort zone. And I know you trust me. I know you're going to be okay. I know some of this is going to maybe feel a little icky and awkward, but I'm going to be with you. We're going to do it together, and it's going to be okay. And it's going to be great, actually. So recently I was having a conversation with a friend, and she mentioned to me, she said, I find it interesting that you'll wear bright colors like bright green or bright pink, but then you also sometimes will wear neutrals. I thought to stand out, you have to wear bright colors and high heels and be bigger and louder and taller than everybody else. And I thought it was an interesting point because I think sometimes we think visibility is about being loud, about being seen everywhere. And so for today's conversation, we're going to talk about the importance of strategic visibility, being visible even at times when you'd rather hide. And I know there are a lot of times we'd rather hide. I've got good news and I've got bad news. So the good news is that the tools I'm going to share with you are doable. They're feasible. They may not be intuitive. They may not feel easy, but they are doable. These are things you can do to stand out, be noticed, be seen, and be heard. These are not revolutionary, groundbreaking, complicated systems. The bad news is, if this makes you uncomfortable, if this sounds like something you can't imagine yourself doing, you're going to be limited in the influence that you'll have. We have to be seen, we have to be heard in order to have people know who we are. And I'm going to walk you through all the steps. We're going to do this together. So bear with me. Visibility is not vanity. It's not ego. Sure, there are examples of people who've taken it too far. But what I'm talking about and what we're going to work through is visibility as impact, not visibility as ego or arrogance or boastfulness. I had a call with a client yesterday in the UK, and he shared with me that I am so comfortable speaking up and advocating and recognizing my team. But gosh, don't make me talk about myself. And I worked through that using some of the tools that we're going to talk about today, because being proud of your team, giving them recognition and all of that, that's wonderful. And we need that. But he's got to also advocate for himself and articulate his values in ways that are meaningful. So here's what we're going to cover today. I want to give you the outline. First, we're going to talk about what visibility really means, right? We're going to bust some of the myths and really break down what visibility means. We're going to talk about the difference between being seen and being seen as valuable. And I think I did a blog on this recently, or an article, something like that, because there is a big difference between being seen and being seen as valuable. And we're gonna break that down for you. Number 3 is we're going to go into what's the right place and the right time. Who are the right people, right? We don't want to just be seen by everybody. It's being strategic and intentional about your visibility. And finally, we're going to cover some of those roadblocks, things like imposter syndrome. Do you have to be an extrovert? We're going to navigate all of that, and I'll show you how to overcome them, because I'll give you the cheat sheet. You don't have to be an extrovert to be influential, and you don't have to be an extrovert to be seen. Recently, I did a survey, a poll on LinkedIn, and I asked leaders in my network, over 33,000 people, and I asked, would you like more support, guidance, and insights on building your influence, becoming more visible, managing your reputation, or managing your personal brand? And the results surprised me. I really thought maybe personal brand would be like the number one, but But the number one, overwhelmingly, almost half of the people who responded said they wanted more advice and guidance on being more visible. You're not alone if you're struggling with this. You're not alone if you have questions about how do I get people to notice me? I've got ideas. I've got um, suggestions. I see an opportunity, or maybe I see something that's wrong. How do I speak up confidently and not get judged or not get ridiculed? These are very common thoughts. And so we're going to work through that. I am going to reference, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to reference many things in the New Rules of Influence book that I wrote in 2024. And the first thing I want to point out is any person or place that needs to hear and feel your influence must know who you are and what you stand for in order to get behind your vision. That's actually on page 15 if you're following along with the book. If I don't know who you are and what you stand for, what you care about, why would I pay attention and really buy in to what you're advocating for? There's a famous quote attributed to a lot of people that says, before I can care about what you do, I need to know why you care about what you do. And that's where all that vulnerability and sharing our story comes into play, right? I've shared so many times why this topic matters to me, why you matter to me. I share that because in order for you to get on board with some of the recommendations and the tools that I have to share, I have to connect with you. And we don't connect based on the methodology or the data. We connect on the why. Why does this matter to you? Why does your work matter to you? Why does championing for your cause matter to you? People need to know who you are, and they also need to see you. So we're going to dive in. What does it really mean to be visible? As I said in the intro, this isn't about just being loud or being on every social media platform or bombarding people with emails and text messages. And that's obnoxious. None of us like that person, right? That person it's just noise. And that's not what visibility, strategic visibility means. But it does mean showing up, having the courage, the vulnerability, the confidence, the agency to be able to insert your opinion into the ethos of the vision you're trying to share. If you can't do that, you're going to end up taking a seat in the back and sitting on a great idea or sitting on a suggestion or a challenge that could be the thing that changes everything. So I'm going to encourage you through this conversation to get more visible, but doing so with impact. Okay, I'm going to read another little section from the book on page 143, excuse me. Being quiet, remaining stoic and reserved, and holding your tongue is not how you or your ideas will influence others. And being visible today does not mean becoming a walking neon sign. There are elegant, confident, and loving ways to promote yourself and your values in your vision such that the right people are drawn to you in the right way to solve the right issues. We're talking strategy. I'm not advocating that you speak up in every meeting. I'm not advocating that you be the first one in the room every time. But if I don't see you, if I don't hear from you, I don't know what you're thinking. And the time is better today than it probably has been in the last 20, 30 years for you to be able to clearly and intentionally share your ideas with those around you, with senior leadership, with other departments, whatever that looks like for you. Being visible for you might mean looking at your online presence. A lot of the clients that I coach say, look, I've got a job. Why do I need to worry about something like LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn isn't where we just go to find a job. LinkedIn is where we go to build community, to show people who we are and what we're capable of. And you're missing an opportunity if you think your peers, your senior leadership are not looking at your online profiles. Of course they are. Of course they are. I remember working with a gentleman at a very large international tech company. And as we were working together, he got tapped for a promotion, and it was a significant promotion. And I said, okay, great news. But the promotion wasn't going to be announced for several weeks. So we worked on his LinkedIn. And he goes, why? I've already got the job. Like, why do I need to work on LinkedIn? They already know me. I said, because once this announcement goes out and the email is sent to all your staff, your new staff across the organization, people are going to want to know who you are, not just what's your technical background, what certifications do you have, what qualifies you, but who are you as a person? And so we did. We spent a lot of time working on his LinkedIn and really got it to the place where it represented his values, his interests, his career, and the highlights. And I'm not kidding you, within the first few days of the announcement going out, his numbers of who viewed your profile went through the roof. And there were a lot of internal people, because why wouldn't I go and look at your online presence to see, where did you go to school? Did you play sports? Is there anything about you that I might find on something like LinkedIn that I can use to have a conversation with you? So of course I'm going to go there. You put the information there so people can find it. It's not creepy to look at someone's LinkedIn profile before you talk to them. It's creepy if you do like a background check on their financials. That's creepy. But it's not creepy to look at LinkedIn. I want you to go through my LinkedIn. Everything there is for you to learn who I am and to see if there's an opportunity for us to connect. So even if you're fully employed, even if your career is going great and you think you don't need to worry about social media, or maybe you haven't been very intentional about the way you show up online, being visible means being online today. It just does. And what we're not looking for is perfection, but we are looking for consistency. If your goal, your personal brand is about adding value to the conversation, making a positive impact on every project, team, and community you serve in, then I want to see that thread pulled through online. I want to see that you show up that way online. You might express it a little bit different, all right? If it's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever, those might be more social, and LinkedIn is more professional, but I want to see that through line of your personal brand. So we can't neglect the online space. Being more visible for you might mean, and it's going to terrify some of you, it might mean raising your hand and offering to lead the project or deliver the program to senior leaders, right? Maybe somebody needs to present the data, or somebody needs to present the findings or the recommendations of our team. Any volunteers? That's when most people start checking their phones and sitting on their hands. But maybe for you, it means raising your hand and saying, I'll do it. Now, your boss might say, but you've never done that before. Exactly. This is your opportunity to shine. And between the time that you're tapped and the time that it happens, you can get enough skills to do a good job. It may not be like fabulous Tony Robbins type inspiration, but you can do a good job. And just pushing yourself out of that comfort zone when, public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have. I do so much coaching around communication and public speaking. You're not alone if this idea terrifies you. But there are so many tools and systems and structures and resources that can get you to good. You don't have to be fabulous, but to get you to good. And that can be what starts your visibility path. Listen for those opportunities. the leaders in your company, your manager, your team, your project coordinators, they're all looking for someone willing to do something. Well, maybe that's the opportunity for you to be visible. Seek those opportunities. Be online, be active on social media, contribute your ideas and your thoughts. Don't just react, thumbs up, or, celebrate, and don't just say congratulations. Be specific. Your voice is yours. Your voice is so cool and it's so amazing, and you have so much to say. And I know so many of you bite your tongue during the day, and then you go home and you tell your partner or your spouse or your friends, "Oh, I had this idea today, and God, I just wish I had said something." That's okay. Next time, just put your hand up. You'll figure out what to say by the time they call on you. Put your hand up. Don't bite your tongue anymore. Say it. That could be the thing that changes everything. Okay. Second thing, the difference between being seen and being seen as valuable. Are you clear on your values? Values are the foundation of a personal brand. They are the foundation of how we show up in this world in a consistent, clear, and confident way. And many of us, if not most of us, do not spend time thinking about what we stand for. So if you think about your values as that core moral operating system that directs how you will show up, imagine how important that is, right? If your phone's operating system goes down or your computer's operating system goes down, everything falls apart. Well, the same works for our moral compass, our moral operating system. If you're not clear about your values and you don't lead and behave and show up and act through those values, you're not earning credibility, you're not building trust, and visibility could be all over the place for the wrong things. So spend the time and think about what you stand for, what drives you, what's non-negotiable from a values or principle standpoint. And it's a big exercise and it's a hard one. When I do this in trainings, I see the expressions on people's faces. And I see the ones who rattle off the easy answers: honesty, integrity, compassion, courage. And I'm like, okay, let's really talk about those. And once you start digging in, then the squirming starts happening, right? I'm not talking about what your parents told you were values. I'm not talking about what your community or your spouse or your favorite social media influencer tells you you should value. I'm saying you, as a human being, as a person who gets to go through this wonderful thing we call life, what do you hold so dear that every decision, every opportunity, every relationship, every behavior filters through it? That's where your values live. And as you think about your values, if you're writing down 50 things, try boiling it down. The goal, this is going to scare the daylights out of some of you. The goal is to have 2 or 3, just 2 or 3 that you can lead with. It doesn't mean you don't stand for other things. It doesn't mean other things aren't important. But what are the 2, maybe 3 values that are non-negotiable for you? You cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. And if you know the game Monopoly, you know what that reference is. They're non-negotiable. Those are your core values. That's where the foundation of who you are lives. And in order to help other people understand your value, they have to know what your values are. You will look to add value in every interaction in which you're visible. And I did a podcast with a good friend and client, Whitney Hake. I'm not sure what number it is, but we can get that to you, and Sabrina can put it in the show notes. But we talked about, going into every conversation and adding value, having something meaningful to say in that conversation. It's important. And your value should be a derivative of your values. right? How do I want people to know me? How do I want to be perceived and received? All of that comes from what you stand for. So there is a big difference between just showing up and showing up as valuable. Your voice matters. My new book, The New Rules of Influence, shows you how to build long-lasting impact with authenticity, no tie or title required. Get your copy of the book today and start owning your voice. One of the things that often comes up as I'm going through this part is people say, yeah, but I'm not an extrovert. So making myself seen, making myself known, sharing information that's valuable, being clear on my values, that's something that comes easy to extroverts and not introverts. And I want to know where that rule is written because I don't agree. Now, I'll shock you here. I am an extrovert. I define myself as an extrovert. Let me put it that way. I don't like labels, but if you want to assign a label to yourself, I'm okay. So I assign the label of extrovert to myself. I am very comfortable around people. I feed off of the energy of other people. I love to be in community and conversation, and that's where I thrive. I am not someone who thrives by being by myself. That being said, introverts often describe their characteristics as more, they get recharged and refueled by being alone rather than being in a crowd. And there's pros and cons. People like myself, we love to hear ourselves talk. We do things like podcasts and YouTube videos. And I can see Sabrina's laughing in the corner because we love to hear ourselves talk. And we're very comfortable talking, but we're not always the best listeners because we're talking. And we're entertaining and we're outgoing and we're not always listening. And therefore, what we say sometimes doesn't land with the same impact. An introvert, by description, tends to listen and observe, takes it in before offering an idea. And I will tell you that when I'm in a room of a bunch of extroverts and there's an introvert in the room, and that person speaks, the room goes quiet because what they say is so thoughtful and clear that it stops the noise that the rest of us can sometimes be generating. So it's not that you have to be an extrovert in order to have this kind of influence, in order to be seen. It means being intentional. And I've had to work on that. I have had to work on not just being entertaining in a room, but being intentional and strategic. And sometimes that means being quiet, something that doesn't come natural to me, but it can mean being quiet. I'm not going to hear someone else's perspective. I'm not going to take in the nuance of the environment and what's happening unless I am present and unless I listen. So for extroverts, people who describe themselves as extroverts, it's something to really pay attention to. Forbes actually did a great article about in 2025 about how extroverts and introverts work, and it said there's a quote that was extroverts lean into broad social visibility. Introverts lean into deep, systemized visibility where their insights do the talking. Isn't that cool? That's super cool. I'm like, wow. I mean, I don't think I could ever be an introvert, but there is attributes of introverts that are really grounded and admirable. In the book, New Rules of Influence, on page 148, I actually talk about this. And I say, your visibility should always align with your authentic voice and style. If it's comfortable for you to speak up and take charge and be in the lead, ensure you're doing so for the betterment, not the detriment of the group. If you're more comfortable listening and learning, do so with the intent to offer your voice at the right time in the right way. You'll need to be seen to be influencing. Just because you're comfortable calling yourself an introvert and you're confident in that role, it doesn't mean you still hold on to those ideas. You still have to intentionally, as the Forbes article and as I point out in the book, you have to be heard. Not as loud as the extroverts, but you have to be heard. In my experience, and I've shared this with others and they've said the same, is that when someone who is clear in thought, confident, and consistent offers that idea, it tends to cut through all the noise and be a really impactful part of the conversation. So own that, leverage it, use it. Number 3, how do you be in the right place at the right time? Right? Being visible is not about splashing your face all over social media. It's not about signing up for every project and every volunteer effort of the company, and every community service project. It doesn't mean running yourself ragged, but it does mean knowing who your target audience is. Who are the people you want to influence? Who are the people who need to know about your values, what you stand for, your personal brand, what it is you want to be known for, and the offer that you can give? Who are those people? When I was getting ready to launch the book and the manuscript had been accepted and it was going through editing and we knew this book was coming, it was the end of 2023, beginning of 2024, because the book was coming out in August of 24. And I knew that I was going to slightly shift the focus of my programs and my social media, not as heavy on reputation repair or even building personal brand, because both of those are ultimately about influence. But we were going to start introducing this new language, this new concept. And it was not an overnight switch. It was a very systemic, intentional, thought out plan and campaign to move in this direction. Our target audience can't see big shifts, right? If all of a sudden you start raising your hand a lot and speaking up when in the past you've always been quiet, or volunteering to give every presentation, that's swinging too far in one direction. We want it to be very intentional and very strategic. So think about maybe a couple places that you can start being more visible. Where's your target audience? Where are the people who matter? And I'm not saying as human beings, other people don't matter. I'm saying the people who matter to your career and your ability to drive change, have influence in the way that you want. Those are the people we're talking about. It might be your boss. It might be your boss's boss. It might be a community that's underrepresented that you want to advocate for. Then, where are those people? They're probably someplace on social media, because in this day and age, it's very hard to find somebody who's not in some way connected to some community on social media. But where are they? And what are they paying attention to? What are they listening for? What's resonating and getting engagement? Those are the questions to ask yourself. It's not just about what do they call it? A spray and pray approach where you just start bombarding social media. It's about speaking to people in the way that they'll respond to in the moment. Know who your audience is. If you're going to be on social media and it's a business conversation, it's going to be LinkedIn. So what kind of content can you start adding? What conversations can you join? Maybe they're in groups. Maybe it's a company page that you start becoming more active in, and you start sharing your view, your opinion. You start challenging assumptions if that's appropriate. And you do it all through the lens of those values and all through the lens of your personal brand. LinkedIn today is the number one professional visibility platform. And I mean, I've got all the places that's been cited. So for business, it really can't be ignored. And I will advocate for LinkedIn because I've seen its power. Sure, there's some spam. Sure, there's some, creepy people, but they're everywhere. So know that it's not pure, but it is a knowledge sharing platform in the realm of professional networking. And if you want to be seen, figure out who your target audience is on LinkedIn and make sure you get in front of them. If it's your senior leadership in the company, what groups are they part of? What conversations do they contribute to? Where can you show up? And then your name becomes top of mind. But always prioritize the platforms where your audience is engaged. Because if you start promoting your message and your ideas and your advocacy to the wrong audience, it's going to be futile and you'll get frustrated. There's also in person. How are you showing up in front of those people in person? Right? I talked to somebody the other day who said that they've started, because they got a promotion, they've started interacting more with senior leaders in their company. And he said, I still can't bring myself to introduce myself and shake their hands. I sit in the room, I answer questions when I'm asked. I just can't get there. And so think about, like, what's the first step you could do? Maybe don't look at the big swings. But what's the first step? Maybe it is introducing yourself. When everybody's getting into the room and getting situated, just walk up to Bob and introduce yourself. Bob, it's great to finally meet you. I'm looking forward to being part of this project. And please know my door is always open if you have any questions that I can answer. It doesn't have to be more than that. Now, Bob has put a name and a face together. And as you share, as you grow your visibility, more and more you're building on that positive first impression. It doesn't have to be more than that. You can build on it as you feel more comfortable. Even the emails that you send, how are you speaking to senior leaders in your company? How are you speaking through your emails to your team? Are you respecting their different needs? Let's say you've got an email going to senior leadership, right? VP up. I'll tell you, for the most part, these people are very busy and they have very little capacity for a ton of detail and a lot of minutia. So are you speaking at a high enough level in your communication with them so that you respond appropriately to their needs? Or are you just loading them up with details and hoping they'll figure it out? If you're speaking to analysts or finance professionals, operations professionals who might enjoy understanding more of the process and the data and the analytics behind your assumptions or your communication, are you giving them enough of that? Or are you speaking at too high of a level? Yes, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to know I've got a message and now I have to think about how the person is going to receive it and change or modify that message. Yeah, it is a lot of work. And it's what makes the message land. If I just throw it all out there and say, You'll figure out what parts of it are valuable for you," well, I'm not really taking into account your needs and I'm not responding to your needs. And therefore, you're probably just going to gloss over. So being visible means being specific to your target audience. Finally, what are some roadblocks that come into play and how do we overcome them? And you've probably encountered a lot of roadblocks as we've had this conversation thinking, oh, this sounds way too uncomfortable. The biggest one I see is imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is that belief that you don't belong, that they'll figure out at some point that you aren't good enough, you are the wrong person, right, to be leading that project or managing that team or whatever it is, or being in that job. And so people with imposter syndrome will go through every day almost expecting any moment now, I'm going to get found out. And that's really a hard way to get through a day, let alone your career. And there's so much written about imposter syndrome. And if you are dealing with this, I encourage you to talk to someone and really unravel where it all comes from. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but I can tell you a lot of times it is rooted in early experiences that reinforce that message. And I have people close to me who deal with that all the time. And, where does that come from? And we'll talk about it. And well, it's, a parent that did something or a teacher who said, you'll never be good enough. And that message, that tape is still back there somewhere. And it's limiting what they can do. It's something that needs to get addressed because it will slow you down going forward. And there's a difference between imposter syndrome and discomfort. What I'm suggesting here with raising your hand, being the one who gives the presentation, maybe stepping on stage or speaking up, that's going to cause you discomfort. I know it will. And that's okay. That's a very universal human experience. And that can be worked through by awareness and then action, right? Have the courage to acknowledge the discomfort and then work through it, manage through it. Repetition, more experience definitely helps with that. The other reason I hear that people are hesitant to be visible is because they are afraid of being judged. I cannot tell you how many times someone has said to me, I don't want people to judge me. They're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to laugh at me. And the reality is that's mostly a fear that we hold. It's not a fear it's not an assumption they hold. When we're presenting or we're speaking up on something, the people listening are not hoping we will fail. They're not cheering us on to make a mistake or look foolish. They are thinking about their own needs and their own goals and how this information fits in with that. So we're afraid they're judging negatively, but that's not what's going on for them. And here's the other part of judgment. Judgment is a reality. We will judge. Yes, I will judge you. You will judge me. The second you started listening or watching this podcast, you started judging me. Or maybe you went to my website. Maybe you looked at my LinkedIn. Maybe you watched my TED Talk. Whatever. You've started judging me. And I know that. I am aware of that. I know what I can control in that, and I know what I can't. By being anchored in my values and grounded in who I am as a human being in this wonderful thing called life, I show up authentic, courageous, all those attributes of influence, and do the best I can. I cannot change you. We cannot change another human being. If you've ever been married, you know that you might try, but you're not allowed to change other people. That's a joke. We can't change other people, but we can influence them. And influencing them can lead them to see us a different way. So fear of judgment feels real to you. And it's not the same experience the other people are having. So this has been a lot. And I've enjoyed having the conversation because I know what's possible for you. I know that if you will take these steps and start moving in the direction of the way you want to be seen, the way that you want to be visible, the way you want people to know you and see you and perceive you and receive you and bring you in, I know these steps work. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and it's the same steps. And I know it's uncomfortable. And I'm with you. I believe in you. I know that you are capable of this in whatever culture and structure and community and organization that works for you. I know this works. And I really hope you will start with some clarity. Start by asking yourself about those values. Really unpack that. And it is the foundation of a personal brand. It's the foundation of our career. It's the foundation of how we show up, is our values. And look at visibility as a consistency tool, not a perfection tool. We're not looking to be perfect. I have made mistakes on social media, and hopefully I catch them in time. Sometimes I haven't, but consistency is the name of the game. Your community online starts to know you and believe in you and understand you. So that one-off mistake, when you lose your temper in a meeting or you post something you shouldn't have posted, those one-off mistakes, if there's enough context, will insulate you. Visibility, being seen, is what drives influence. You can't influence people if they don't hear you, if they don't see you. So I'm asking you today to take those first steps, get out there, make your voice heard, put a comment on this podcast. There's a great opportunity for visibility. Share this with someone. Become active in your community, your organization, your team, and start letting us know who you are and what you care about. I hope this message has resonated. I would love to hear from you. If there's something that sparked an idea or a question, please let me know, because your comments matter. And if you don't want to make them public, message me offline. That's perfectly fine. I am so excited to bring this message to you. I know we've got some great conversations coming up in future podcasts. I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening and being part of this journey that we're on for the Lita Citroen podcast. And until I see you next time, I wish you health, happiness, and all good things.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lita Citroen podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. It helps more people discover these inspiring conversations. For more tools, insights, and resources, visit Lita360.com or connect with Lita on LinkedIn. Until next time, remember, your influence has the power to make a real difference.